guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. First of all, I apologize if you can hear the rain. It is first thing on a Sunday morning here. The sun isn't even up yet, but it's raining quite hard and all this side of my apartment is glass. So I apologize. Hopefully it doesn't interfere too much. The season finale. Oh my goodness, do we have a lot to talk about. Some surprises, some things I thought were gonna happen, a cliffhanger. Let's just get right into it. So we kick off the episode as we knew going in that this was gonna be where we found out whether that Porter wins the mayoral race for LA to become the first openly gay mayor. There's a lot of reporters and they're at Dana's. That's where the official Bette Porter watch party is. One thing that I really liked was one of the news anchors. It's the male anchor that kind of updates the audience a lot, saying they've won this district, Milner's won that district. He's a guy called Jay Jackson. And he was actually a news reporter in real life, but he is in a ton of TV shows. Notably for me, Parks and Recreation. I know he's been in lots of movies, Fast and Furious. And not that I'm super into Fast and Furious, so just happen to know that's one of the ones. Gossip Girl. I mean, he's really been. If you notice him now, you'll start seeing him everywhere. And he always, is a newscaster too. So I thought that was a nice touch that they had him in there, and he was the person updating as the first third of the episode when we have Shane and Alice are there in the beginning, and they're having this typical great Shane and Alice scene where Alice is going through like I don't know, Tinder here is only straight people. In the UK there's one called Her. I wish it was like that here. When you turn this Her app on here, there's about 5 people on it here, so there's not this endless choice of beautiful women like Alice and Shane had. Shane is even trying to, there's a really great Alice line where Shane tries to tell Alice, oh, there's a girl looking at you at 6 o'clock, and Alice is like, I don't know how to use clocks, I'm all digital now. It was just, I don't know, it really reminded me of the original, the way they used to get on and their humor together. Straight away when they started setting up that Bette had won this district they didn't think they were gonna win, and she just needed one more district to win, I knew that she wasn't going to win. I did think last week, I said I wanted her to win. I thought it would be a good storyline. Someone pointed out in my comment section that they thought it would be a little too obvious if she won, and I do have to agree with the commenter in that case. But I really don't know what they would have done next season, because it would have been so difficult for them to try and keep Bette as the mayor, and I feel like they would take her storyline away from everyone else. So obviously Bette doesn't win, and her and Danny have this scene where they find out they're alone in the back room at Dana's, and it's just so funny because Danny is like clicking and refreshing the page to see the votes, and you can just see Bette like wanting to take control and click it herself, and eventually she does, but in a polite way of saying, do you mind? And you can see the two of them it's refreshing a page. Like my cat could do it, but it's that, I mean, I'm the exact same way, like that control type A personality, and I just thought it was really funny. When they were doing that and showing that was when I also thought they are not going to do this to Bette's character and make her hook up with Danny. No, I've been saying this all week. Danny and Bette, it's a mentor-mentee relationship, and thankfully they did not hook up, because if they did, it just would have shown that Bette had not learned, grown anything from 2004 when we met her to now. So I am really glad that didn't happen. She has a very brief moment where she kind of you know, she's like getting teary-eyed and bent over, and then tries to say to Danny like, it's okay, you know, we're getting this together. So throughout the watch party, people are milling around, and we go back and forth through a few people. Mainly Sophie and Finley have a conversation about what happened, and the actress who plays Finley, I think it's Jacqueline Tobani, I don't know how to say her last name, but I think she's really good. She comes off very authentic, and even when they're having the conversation, you know, we know this character, okay, only 8 episodes, but she's so uncomfortable having the conversation, and she's like jittering and moving her feet, and they decide, okay, we're just gonna try and forget about it. Obviously we know that's not gonna happen, but that's where they leave it at the watch party. There's a nice scene too between Alice and Angie, and Angie kind of awkwardly asked Alice about how old she was when she lost her virginity, and Alice is, you know, trying, oh, I haven't, and oh, I was 37, and just typical Alice. And Leisha Haley really shined in this episode. I mean, I think she is a great actress, and a lot of the time she doesn't get the recognition she deserves. She does such a good job, and so consistently. Like the character, it's like Jennifer Beals, the mannerisms, the way she talks, everything about it. She's really good. But this episode, I was really blown away by her. She and Angie have a conversation, and Angie kind of says, oh, I'll ask Shane, and you can see her kind of be like, oh god, no, I'll answer. And they have like a little brief conversation about Alice losing her virginity to a boy who played her mother's son on a movie of the week, and Angie's like, what's a movie of the week? It was a good, like, cute little scene. So Bet's lost. She addresses her constituents and everyone who's helped and everything like that. Randomly, also Finley is working at Dana's now. So this person has 2 jobs and she doesn't have anywhere to live, or it just is strange. I mean, also bartending, like when I was in university, I used to be a bartender, and yes, it's a skill you can learn, but it's not something that you just like all of a sudden, like, you're a bartender. And also does not seem like the best place that she should be working, but that's besides the point. Shane Lee has left the watch party before the results were called because Kiara's in the hospital, or waiting in the ER A&E area, and she has a miscarriage, and obviously it's terrible thing that she's going through, and we only get a quick scene of her like obviously upset, and you can tell Shane's a bit like doesn't know what to do with herself, which I think it was the same kind of situation with Bet and Tina way back in season 1 of the original. And they do actually, there's a scene with Alice, Shane and Bet straight after, and Bet says, oh, I remember when Tina miscarried, and Alice says, oh, I was thinking about that too. And I know I said this last week, but I love the scenes with the originals, but I just love when they call back to the original show. It's such a rare thing to be able to do. I mean, there's not a lot of shows that come back after 10 years with the same cast, and I don't know, it either feels like you're kind of in on a secret, or when I'm out with my friends, most of my friends here in the UK are friends that I've had since I was 11, and 20 years later we're still super close. And when we tell stories about, you know, when we were kids, it's that sort of like nice feeling. I don't know, I really enjoy it. Alice is also saying to Bet, like, you seem to be taking this really well, because Bet explains to them that she's been offered a job in the administration of Milner, the guy who beat her for mayor, and she's saying, oh, he's gonna help me, or I'm gonna help him tackle the opioid crisis. And immediately, like, alarm bells went for me that it just, you know, someone who produces a negative ad campaign and all this stuff. So we got answers to that later on. Alice goes to a show to do her final episode, and I don't know whether I've not noticed this before or they haven't shown this particular area, but if Alice has like her name of the show on the back wall, and it's in the writing's in white and the background's in like navy dark blue, but it's actually the chart. So I think maybe I've just not noticed it, but it was really cool. I mean, I have kind of been thinking, does the website still exist, or did she sell it? Because that was discussion at one stage when Max was saying that it was worth a lot. So I thought that was a nice touch too. Alice, after, you know, Bet said to her, I stayed true to who I am, and, you know, of course I didn't win, but everything's turning out okay. And Alice, obviously inspired by that, goes in and kind of says to her cast and crew, we're gonna do this our way, like screw the network. If this is the last show, this is the last show, but we're gonna go out doing what we want. And she had a really great line that was, I didn't want to change the world, but I wanted to change a few people's mind about a few things. And I think that's kind of a bit like the L Word. They're trying to, you know, make a few people think or be exposed to something that they normally wouldn't be exposed to. And so I thought that was nice too. After Alice does like her little rally, Finley and Sophie kind of have an awkward moment, and we cut to Dani talking to her dad, and they're having this conversation about Sophie, and the dad is kind of saying, I think she's going to leave you if things get difficult. And he's basing that on the fact that she's from a broken home, and obviously I don't know whether her dad's not around or she just doesn't see him a lot, what the situation is, but Dani is like really talking Sophie up and how much she loves her, and you just know that, you know, all this episode, even when Sophie came to Bet's watch party, Dani was really talking her up, and oh, you're so beautiful, I'm so glad you're here. And in a way it is kind of like Tina and Bet again. I mean, yes, did Bet fuck up in the beginning, big time, but I think she even says like, I fucked up, I didn't fuck off. Bet has always been 100% all in, like no question about it. It was always, for better or worse, whether it's her fault or not, Tina was the one that was constantly leaving and coming back. And, you know, even when Bet was happy with someone else, like the second she got any sort of indication from Tina, like, you know, she was back there again. Obviously all this episode it seemed like Dani was just being set up for a mighty fall. Dani's dad also tells her that he has been kind of working with, talking to, supporting the Milner guy who was running against Bet, and that his company is doing some like big jail expansion. So obviously the Milner guy doesn't give a shit. He's just gonna arrest more people and put people in jail rather than getting them help if they're on drugs or through the opioid crisis. And so obviously he's bringing Bet in to be the face of, see, I care, but Dani has that information now. So Shane and Kiara are having an argument, and this to me was kind of out of left field. I mean, Kiara's very upset, she's in a terrible situation, but she tells Shane, like, you know, you should have been honest from the beginning. And Shane was honest from the beginning, and kind of tells Shane that no one's gonna love her because she only loves herself. I mean, it just seems like Kiara doesn't know Shane at all. The one thing, Shane is a very loving person and a great friend, and yes, she's, you know, not had the best track record with girlfriends and relationships, but someone who is married to her surely knows her. And Kiara ends up like giving her back, I think, an engagement ring or wedding ring, and walks out, and we don't see her for the rest of the episode. So maybe she just needs to cool off, but she is saying to Shane that when she feels ready again, she's going to get pregnant again. And, you know, where does that leave Shane? Because she was going to do it because she loved her and have the child, but does she go through this again? We shall have to wait till next season to see what happens. I'm sure the actress who plays Kiara will be back at some stage, if not straight away, but we shall see in season 2. Bette and Danny come back to Bette's house and they have like all the posters and things like that. Bette's saying like, oh, this is gonna sit in my garage until I don't know when, because what am I gonna do with it? Bette then says to Danny kind of, what are you gonna do next? I've been offered this thing by Milner, like maybe you'll come work for me again. And this stage Danny tells Bette that, you know, this is a setup, he's just using you sort of thing. And it's the last straw to break Bette, basically. I mean, she's been really, really hammered these past couple of weeks with just bad news, hurtful things, Tina, the loss, like, poor Bette. We go back to the set of Alice's show and Sophie tells Finley that Danny and Sophie are going to Hawaii to get married that night. And Finley is getting a lift from Sophie and she's just like, oh, I'm just gonna put this in the green room. They go into the green room and hook up. And the only thing I kept thinking the whole time was, oh, this is the only time that Finley's ever been with someone and not been drunk. And it's not awkward, but the scene is, obviously they're both into each other, but you can tell Finley is looking like she's gonna panic. And then Sophie said, I think she even says like, this is kind of hard or difficult, and because she's cheating and has feelings for her friend, and it's a different scene. I don't think we've ever gone through an episode this season without seeing Finley's underarms. I have no problem with, if that's what you want to do and you don't want to shave, I couldn't care less. But I don't understand why we need to see it every episode, but whatever. This was a interesting development, is we go to an art gallery and it is not our dear Bette Porter, but Jose and Micah. And have they mentioned before that Jose is not only a painter, artist, but he had some serious gallery space in LA. Have they ever mentioned this before? Because I do not remember them mentioning that he was a successful artist. So the whole time that Jose was saying that, oh, I've done a painting of Micah, I thought it was going to be really bad and Micah wasn't going to know what to do, but the painting was actually amazing. So we'll come back to that scene in a minute. There's some developments in this scene later that are interesting, to say the least. Finley randomly shows up at the priest's house, which, I mean, I know that she opened up to her and stuff, but I just thought it was so random. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say apart from it was so random. Like, she ends up bringing back that person's bike too, and it leaves it in the drive, but her car is gone. Did she ever get her car back? All these things that we have no closure about. Very strange. Micah is standing chatting to this guy that's talking about Jose's painting. Micah's like, oh, do I know you? And he says, maybe, like, are you friends with Jose? And Micah says, oh, I'm Micah, obviously insinuating if Jose has mentioned me, like, I'm his boyfriend. And the guy turns around and says, I can't even remember his name, I'm Andrew, I think maybe it was. I'm Jose's husband. Very, like, what? Maybe we were supposed to know this, like, we were supposed to know he's a painter. I don't know, but obviously Micah looks super shocked, so we'll have to see what happens there. I mean, who knows? It could be a situation like Kiara and Shane where they were getting divorced but they just hadn't signed the papers, or it could be anything. Angie comes home and she's going around the house, mum, 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 and we find poor broken Bet on the couch asleep, and she is just done. And she's like, do you want food? Do you want coffee? Do you want to watch TV? And she's like, no, I'm just tired. Like, oh my God, I just feel so bad for her. Again, Jennifer Beals, just amazing. Angie kind of says to her, let's go. I want to take you somewhere. Go get dressed. And they go on what was shown in the trailer, like the hike in the Hollywood Hills. And there's some really nice conversations. Where they are is where that they spread some of Kit's ashes, which I thought was nice. And Angie says like, oh, I bring Jordy here sometimes. And then Angie speaks for not all of us, but a lot of us, 90% of the audience. And they're talking about Tina getting married. So did they just tell Angie? Did Carrie come and they told her? Because Angie knows that she's getting married. So I don't know, maybe they just decided to tell her before Tina left. But Angie says, I know this is silly, but I've always hoped or wanted you to get back together. And the only thing that would have made it better is if Jennifer Beals, like, office turned to the camera and was like, it was just, it's all of us in the audience. Like, the writers are telling us to chill. And obviously, Jennifer Beals, obviously Bet's like, no, it's not silly, because I thought the same thing last week before she told me that she's getting married. I'm wanting to tell her I want you back in my life, and then she, you know, ripped my heart out of my chest and like cut it into pieces. So, and then there's another nice callback to the original where Bet tells Angie about going on the silent retreat, and it did make me think, like, because that was in season 3 when Bet and Tina were going through all the issues. Does Angie know about like all these times that they split up, they got back together, Henry's and Jody's? Like, I wonder how much of that she knows about. I'm sure they're obviously not everything, because God, there's some crazy crap that's gone on with those two, but it would be interesting to know how much that Angie's aware of, especially because she was a baby. Like, you know, she's not going to remember anything. Angie does call Bet out for kind of just pushing through, and, you know, she says mum left and Auntie Kit died, and you just kind of kept on going and you never allow yourself to get upset. I mean, I think a lot of people are guilty of that. I know I'm very guilty of that, where you just push yourself until you get to the stage where it's like you are the way Bet was behaving, where you are broken. In my life now, I do try and stop and take stock of what's going on and not just push until you do push yourself to the edge and hopefully don't fall off. They also do the bit where, I keep wanting to say Jennifer Beals, I'm sorry, where Bet just tells Angie like, oh, you know, the silent retreat didn't go too well for me because, hello, it's Bet. And she says about the screaming, and they do scream off the hills, and it's another nice callback to the original. So Alice's last show, this bit was very surprising to me, and in a good way, I think. Alice has Roxane Gay on the show, and they're talking about being what is a bad queer, and Roxane Gay says that being a bad queer now is probably wanting a wife and 2 kids and a picket fence. And Alice is like, I think I'm a bad queer. And Alice, I'm right there with you. Anyone interested in putting forward an application to be my girlfriend or wife, you can pop it down in the comments below, please. Alice is telling Roxane Gay about the throuple, and of course, I mean, it's gold. Like, I invited another person into our relationship and it was my partner's ex-wife. Like, come on. And surprisingly, Nat is in the audience, which I did not see this coming at all. And she basically says to Alice, I want you and only you, and I didn't fight hard enough to keep my last relationship. I don't want to make the same mistake. And it's a nice scene, and Alice and Nat are back together. So I really did not see that coming. So it looks like we are going to get them next. Well, at least Nat. I'm sure Gigi will be around too, because of the kids. So good for Alice. She's the only one ending on a high. Hopefully her show isn't cancelled. I mean, logic would dictate that scene, because they kept the cameras rolling while like Nat and Alice are talking, and obviously that's gold too after talking about the throuple, so I'm sure that will be like the viral thing that saves her show. Just before Alice goes on stage, Finley tells Sophie that she's going home to Missouri. She's leaving like basically right then and there to fly that night. Coincidentally, the same evening that Danny and Sophie are supposed to go to Hawaii. We go back to Bet and Angie then, and they're walking back to their car, and Bet is so awkwardly asking Angie about sex, and I like felt awkward for Angie because Bet's like telling her like, oh, it's supposed to feel good for both of you, and it's like, oh my god, stop, like it's your daughter, she's 16, that's so awkward. And as they're walking back, Angie, I feel you on this one. Anytime I see a dog, I'm immediately just like, dog, dog, dog. And it turns out that the owner of the dog is one of the reporters that was talking to Bet in the beginning, and she asks her to go to dinner, and Bet straight off the bat is like, oh, I'm not doing press right now. And the reporter, name's Maya, is kind of like, oh no, like off the clock sort of thing. And Bet starts to get a little bit awkward, and she's like, oh, you have my number, like call me. I do like Maya. This is a really weird thing to say, but she just seems like really cool. Like, you know, some people just have that kind of aura about them. Like, she definitely seems cool, and I think she could definitely hold her own against Bet. And as they walk away, and she's kind of like making fun of Bet, like, oh, I saw sparks flying and she's cute and stuff like that. So that's a nice moment. We do a lot of quick flashes to see where everyone's ending the season. So in no particular order, Jose is outside Micah's apartment, knocking on the door, trying to get him to talk. Micah is ignoring him. Nat and Alice sitting on the set of her show, but everyone else is gone, making out. So Alice scored a win for this season, I think. Ends the season happy. Danny is sitting at the airport. They're calling over the speakers, last boarding. Finley is waiting to get on her plane too. They show Angie and Jordy kind of sitting there watching something with like one headphone each. Cute. Ending the season in a good place too. They randomly show Shane picking up a stray dog. So Shane's ending the season in a bit of a mess. I mean, hopefully the bar is at least breaking even now. Kiara and her, the last thing that happened was Kiara threw a ring at her. So Goddess that walks among us, Jennifer Beals, Bet Porter, arrives at a restaurant looking absolutely amazing. And she arrives there for a date with Maya. One thing I thought was interesting, and I'm probably reading way too much into this, is when Bet gets there, she says Stevenson, which is, I'm assuming, Maya's last name, party of two. So Maya booked the restaurant. Interesting. It's, you know, we know Bet is normally quite the alpha in a relationship, so it'll be interesting to see her in more of a balanced situation next season. I mean, who knows? Obviously, I still wish that Bet and Tina were endgame, but we'll see what happens. I mean, they have basically said that Laura Holloman will be back next season. They keep repeating this thing I talked about in my last video about They want to show a divorced same-sex couple parenting. Again, there's enough divorce and things like that in real life. Like, I want to see Bette and Tina, but if they're really not going to go there, I want to see Bette happy for once instead of just, you know, having her heart ripped off her chest all the time. Yes, Bette lost. Yes, Tina is moving back to LA, but she's marrying someone else. But Bette did seem very broken throughout the episode after losing. I mean, I think everything just, it's fine. Everything's hit her about Kit, Tina, all this stuff, losing the election. She doesn't, you know, even Milner betraying her in like 2 seconds. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Bette next season. Like, is she gonna go back into art? Is she gonna go back into teaching? Is she gonna do something completely different? She could become, I mean, we all know she has money, so she could become some PTA mom sort of thing. I highly doubt that. But with Maya or whomever, it'll be interesting next season, that's for sure. And I'm just around for any Jennifer Beals, Bette Porter. I mean, it could literally be Jennifer Beals reading the back of a menu to me and I'll be there. So let's see where Bette goes next season. And also, Alice has ended in a good place. I really like how they've created the show for her, and we'll see where she goes with Nat, if things just are going smoothly. Now they've had this kind of hiccup, but we shall see next season as well. The big cliffhanger was Sophie's walking through the airport, Danny's waiting to board for Hawaii, Finley's waiting to go to Missouri. Where is Sophie going? It's going to be a really long wait to find out. And did the writers write this knowing that she was going to one or the other? I think this will set off a chain reaction with Danny's in a bit of a similar situation to Bette now. You know, she lost the election, she doesn't have a job, which is a big deal to someone like Danny and Bette. And now she's going to lose this person that she was going to marry and is the love of her life and was all in with. So I think it'll be really interesting, because whereas Bette has made all these mistakes and grown and has 20 years on Danny, I think Danny's gonna go on a bit of a destructive path, and maybe we shall see a bit of a rise of Bette 2.0. So we'll see. Overall, I really enjoyed the episode. There's still a lot more that I would like to talk about. I'm gonna do kind of a wrap up of the whole season and talk about each of the characters, what they went through. So I will try and have that out as soon as possible. Also, where do we go from here? Season 2, thoughts and predictions for season 2. We don't have a huge amount of information to go on, but hopefully it's coming out in December. I really hope they don't make us wait any longer than that. Thank you so much to everyone who's watched one of my videos, especially in the last couple of weeks. It has been unbelievable, and again, I just say we have the best community in the world, and it's just been so wonderful. So thank you so much to everyone who's watched, liked, commented, especially the people who've subscribed. Thank you. And I'm still doing the L Word t-shirt giveaway. You can either choose from Bette Porter 2020, now this is probably vintage, or the rainbow name shirt that I wore last Sunday. All you have to do to enter the contest is to be a subscriber and to comment on any of my L Word videos. Doesn't matter which one it is or how many times you comment, you'll be entered. I also, when I post the season wrap up of the L Word, that's when I'll announce the winner, and then you can contact me on the back end of my channel. So once again, thank you so much. Please, I'd love to know what everyone else thought of the finale. Where was Sophie going? Was she going to Danny in Hawaii, or was she going to get Finley? please let me know down in the comments, and anything else you want to talk about, I'm here for too. Please consider following me on social media. My Instagram is the.ash.silver. I'll also be making a Twitter this week because a few people have asked me about it. And once again, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves and have a good day. Bye.